Howdy folks, and welcome to Brain Rotters. We have What If Episode 2, and it has premiered littered with Easter eggs. I mean, I expected this episode to have a lot, but I didn't expect it to have a lot. So stay with me as I take you through all of them. Throughout the episode, we get the same title card for each planet that we got in Guardians of the Galaxy. The Star-Lord scene in the beginning of the episode is different from where in the movie Star-Lord, the legendary outlaw, is not a name that is recognized, but in this one, he is known universe-wide instead. Ronan gets name dropped in this episode, Ronan being the big bad of Guardians 1, and I'm honestly shocked we didn't see him in any capacity in this episode. Like, wouldn't he come looking for djimon Hounsou's character after he didn't return with the Power Stone? T'Challa's gravity mine has a propulsion tech to it, propelling enemies as well as shifting gravity, whereas Peter Quill's could only shift gravity. Yondu using his arrow to wipe clean an army of Kree on Morag is similar to the scene where he does the same thing in a field in the final battle of Guardians. Yondu makes mention of selling the stone to the highest bidder if they made like the old days, and T'Challa jokes about if they did that, Yondu would only have half his teeth, which is true of the first movie and second movie, with half of Yondu's teeth being gold or silver dentures. Not to mention the highest bidder would usually be the broker from Guardians 1. T'Challa says to Yondu, wouldn't you rather use it, the Power Stone, to power a krylorian dying star? First, a krylorian looks like this, like Karina from Guardians 1, and second, we've seen a dying star beforehand with Thor's trip to Nebula, and it's what powered the Dwarf Forge. Yondu says to T'Challa, that's my boy, and we know it's not until the second movie that Star-Lord and Yondu acknowledge their father-son relationship, and this episode of What If is a riff from the first Guardians film, so there's a weird parallel there. The Ravager ship says Mandela on it, in reference to Nelson Mandela, a motivational speaker, and a man who did a lot of good here in his time on Earth, just like T'Challa is doing a lot of good in the universe. Wakanda 1988 is the time and place that young T'Challa is kidnapped, similar to how Peter Quill was kidnapped in 1988 too. T'Challa's father is wearing the same costume he did in Black Panther. T'Challa's dad talks about how Wakanda is better off being cut off from the world, which is a huge plot point in the Black Panther movie. For a brief moment, you can see the Watcher hanging out in the background of Wakanda here. Ego gets a name drop when T'Challa is abducted as a boy. Taserface and Kraglin, you'll recognize them from both Guardians films, or I guess Kraglin from both, Taserface from the second one. Young Peter Quill we see on the hologram looking a lot like himself as a young kid. The meteorite of vibranium we saw from the beginning of Black Panther gets a reference. The yellow robot girl from Guardians 2 gets a background cameo. Tarnax 4 is the homeworld of the Skrulls and gets a reference. Ankara, like Turkey's capital on Earth, gets a reference. We get a surprising cameo from Thanos in this, where T'Challa talks him out of his evil ways. Drax is in this episode with a cameo himself. Apparently, T'Challa stopped the Kree invasion on his homeworld, which means that his wife and daughter are alive, and Drax was never thrown in prison. Nebula looks like how normal Nebula would look, minus the robotic parts, and I don't know if the reason is that Thanos never implanted robotics in her, because T'Challa talked him out of his evil ways earlier than that, or it was Nebula who bested Gamora in combat, and it is Gamora who's the robotic one. I have no idea. Hey, you made it this far, you might as well subscribe if you're new, as well as hitting that bell for notifications so you don't miss another video just like this one. T'Challa says Thanos gardens now. We know that Thanos retreats to the garden at the end of Infinity War, where he does just that, gardening. The Collector is looking ripped in this episode, aside from his short self in the Guardians film. Robin Hood is what Yondu attempts to compare Star-Lord to in this episode. Robin Hood stealing from the rich and giving to the poor like T'Challa. The Gamora and Star-Lord scene where the camera pans around them as they discuss the plan is the same shot seen in this What If episode with Nebula and T'Challa discussing the plan, as the camera revolves around them. Nowhere we visit in the episode, same deal from Guardians 1. The Black Order is featured in the episode heavily, each one of them. Karina is from Guardians 1, and she's back, but her rebellion works in her favor this time around. Cosmo the dog we see in this, in the same shot from Guardians film. We see a dark elf from the Dark World. Howard the Duck is shown too. Cronins get a reference like Korg. Frost Giants get a reference. Elvish literature is what Howard the Duck calls a snooze. And of course, Thor the Dark World features the elves, and that movie was a total snooze itself. When you're out of luck, always go duck is the same thing that Howard the Duck says in his brief Guardians 2 cameo, there's this one thing in the collection that has the shadow of a grown-up Groot. We have a Ravager ship that looks the closest to the Milano in this shot. Next to it is a Nova Corps ship, the Grand Master's ship, the Commodore from Ragnarok, the Kree Armada ship 2, a Quinjet, and one of those mining orbs from nowhere as well. When T'Challa runs by the Wakandan ship, his necklace glows blue, just like how the Wakandan inscription on the inside of their lips, of Wakandan lips, glow blue. When Yondu yells at T'Challa, "You're just like me," that is taken directly from Guardians 2, where Yondu sympathizes with Rocket, telling him that they are exactly like each other, that you're just like me. The rock hand the Collector has, he says he got it off the corpse of a terribly chatty Cronin, which he is talking about our terribly chatty Cronin, Korg, who apparently is dead in this reality. The weapons that the Collector has are Cap's shield, the dagger here is Malekith's from the Dark World, Hela's crown is used heavily in the final fight, and the Necro Sword is the name of Hela's swords, the Necro Sword even being the weapon that Null makes and Gore the God Butcher uses, Gore being the big bad of Thor 4, so we could see that Necro Sword play into that. Guardians' main theme song plays when Yondu joins the fight against the Collector. When escaping the collection, some of the Black Panther music plays very briefly. Jump points make your face all scrambly is what Kraglin says, and we know that Yondu, Rocket, and Kraglin all did 100 of them in Guardians 2. Space Age love song, an 80s pop song, plays as we see Peter Quill in the last scene of the episode, which of course we see Ego and Ego's egg ship, but not accompanied by Mantis, which is really weird. Lastly, T'Challa is in the Black Panther costume in the credits of the episode. So, what did you miss? What did I miss? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think of episode 2 of What If? Personally, I think it's the best in the series by far. I know there's only 2 to compare it to, but hey, comment your thoughts anyway. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.